The first gunshot struck the rusted sign above the abandoned gas station. Metal screamed through the evening. Mara pressed the accelerator, and her truck leapt forward across the broken pavement. Ricky lay across the back seat, one hand pressed against his wounded side. I rode beside them on Dagger, keeping the rifle low against the saddle. Behind us, headlights spilled over the mountain road. 7 vehicles. Maybe more. Silas had not sent men to frighten us. He had sent them to finish what he started 3 years earlier. "Coy!" Mara shouted through the open window. "Where are we going?" I looked toward the dark mountains. There was one road into Loma Verde that Silas would expect us to take, and another road that most people had forgotten. "Follow me." I turned Dagger away from the highway and rode through a broken section of fence. Mara followed, the truck bouncing hard across dry ground. Another gunshot cracked behind us, then another. The bullets were too far away to be accurate, but that would change quickly. We crossed an empty pasture and reached the base of the hills. An old mining trail climbed between 2 walls of rock. It had not been used in years. Rain had cut deep channels through the earth, and fallen branches covered parts of the path. Mara stopped beside me. "You expect the truck to make it through there?" "No." She stared at the narrow trail. Then she looked back at the approaching lights. "That would have been useful information a minute ago." "We leave the truck." Ricky groaned from the back seat. "He can barely stand," Mara said. "I know." I tied Dagger behind the truck and opened the rear door. Ricky's face had gone gray. Blood soaked through the cloth Mara had pressed against his ribs. He opened his good eye. "You always choose the worst roads," he whispered. "You know another one?" "No." "Then save your strength." Mara took a lantern, water, and the photograph from the truck. I lifted Ricky across Dagger's saddle and tied him carefully in place. The first black vehicle appeared beyond the pasture. Its headlights swept across Mara's abandoned truck. "We have less than a minute," she said. We entered the mining trail on foot. The path rose sharply, hidden between twisted juniper trees and black stone. Dagger climbed slowly with Ricky across his back. Mara walked behind them, glancing over her shoulder every few seconds. Engines stopped below us. Doors opened. Men shouted. They had found the truck, but they had not yet found the trail. We climbed until the gas station disappeared behind the ridge. The night swallowed the mountains around us. For almost an hour, no one spoke. Only Dagger's breathing, Ricky's occasional groan, and the sound of our boots against stone followed us upward. At last, we reached an abandoned mining cabin hidden beneath a cliff. Half the roof had collapsed. The door hung from one hinge, but the remaining walls gave us shelter from the wind. We carried Ricky inside. Mara lit the lantern while I examined his wound. The bullet had passed through his side. That was the only good news. The bleeding had slowed, but he needed a doctor. He also needed to tell us what he knew. I sat beside him. "Why does Silas have Devin?" Ricky looked toward Mara. She stood near the broken window, arms folded tightly. "Devin thought Silas would help him find her," Ricky said. "He thought he could trade information for men." "What information?" "About you." I felt Mara watching me. Ricky continued. "Devin learned your name at the Corin Ranch. He started asking questions. Someone told him you used to own land near Loma Verde. Silas already knew who I was. He knew you were alive. He didn't know where you were. Until Devin called him. Ricky nodded. Silas invited us to the ranch. Devin thought they were making a deal. What happened? Silas asked him about Mara, about where she was going, about whether you cared enough to follow her. Mara's expression hardened. And then Silas had his men tie Devin to a chair. Ricky gave a weak smile. Devin finally met someone worse than himself. I did not feel satisfaction. I had imagined Devin afraid many times, but seeing fear passed from one cruel man to another did not make the world better. It only made the darkness larger. Why did Silas send you with the message? I asked. Because he wanted you to trust what you saw. The photograph? Ricky's eye moved toward Mara's hand. She held the picture beneath the lantern, the restored porch, the red door, Silas standing behind Devin, and the woman wearing June's necklace. Is she alive? I asked. Ricky swallowed. I saw her. The cabin became completely still. Mara lowered the photograph. You saw June. I didn't know her name. She stays in the house. Silas doesn't let anyone speak to her unless he is present. Did she look like a prisoner? Ricky hesitated. That hesitation frightened me more than any answer. I don't know. I leaned closer. What does that mean? She wasn't tied up. She wasn't locked in a cell. She walked onto the porch by herself. My hands tightened. Did she speak? Once. What did she say? Ricky's breathing became shallow. She asked Silas whether you were really coming home. I stood too quickly and struck my shoulder against a roof beam. Mara said my name, but her voice sounded far away. For 3 years, I had carried the weight of June's grave. I remembered the wooden coffin, the wet earth, the silver necklace resting against her throat before the lid closed. I remembered standing beside that grave until darkness covered everything. But now every memory felt like evidence from a crime I had failed to notice. The coffin, I said. If June wasn't inside it, someone else was, Mara answered quietly. Ricky closed his eye. There's more. I turned back toward him. There are papers in Silas's office. Devin saw them before they caught him. Death records, land deeds, letters with your name on them. Letters? Some written by you, some written to you. I never received any letters. That doesn't mean they were never sent. Mara stepped closer. June wrote to him. Ricky nodded. Silas kept everything. A cold anger moved through me. Not fast, not wild. It settled into my bones with the patience of winter. Silas had not only stolen my ranch, he had stolen every answer that might have brought me home. Mara placed the photograph on the table. What is the fastest way into Loma Verde? I looked at her. You're not going. Her eyes changed, not with surprise, with disappointment. We are not doing this again. This is my past. And Silas put my face in his message. He wants to use you against me. Then leaving me behind makes his job easier. You don't understand what that town is. No, but I understand what fear does to a person. She stepped closer. It convinces you that being alone is the same as being safe. I looked away. The wind moved through the broken roof. Mara lowered her voice. You told me I deserved choices. Give me one now. I wanted to refuse. I wanted to put her on dagger and send her south before sunrise. But I remembered the canyon, the rope tightening around my wrist. Mara refusing to let go. She was not asking me to protect her. She was asking me to trust her. We enter through the eastern wash, I said. There's an old church near the edge of town. If it's still abandoned, we can hide there until dark. And Ricky? He needs a doctor. Ricky laughed softly. That town doctor works for Silas. Then we find someone who doesn't. There is someone, he said. Who? An old woman named Elena Ruiz. Used to be a nurse. Lives behind the church. You trust her? No. That is not helpful. Ricky opened his eye. But Silas hates her. That was enough. We waited until the pursuing vehicles moved away from the mountain trail. Before dawn, we continued across the ridge. The eastern side of the mountains opened above Loma Verde. From a distance, it looked almost peaceful. Morning light touched the roofs. Smoke rose from chimneys. The church bell tower stood above the main street. Beyond the town, at the edge of a wide field, was the ranch. My ranch. The roof had been replaced. The fences had been rebuilt. And even from the mountain, I could see the red front door. June had wanted that door from the first day we bought the house. I had always said red paint would look foolish beneath the desert sun. She had painted a small red square beside the entrance to prove me wrong. I promised that when the next cattle sale brought enough money, we would paint the whole door. We never did. Now Silas had completed the promise with money he stole from us. Mara stood beside me. That's the house. Yes. Do you want to go there first? More than anything. And? We go to the church. She nodded. Sometimes courage is not moving toward the thing you want. Sometimes it is choosing the thing that must come first. We descended through the eastern wash and entered Loma Verde shortly after sunrise. The town had changed. New buildings stood where empty lots had been. Mining trucks crowded the southern road. Silas's name appeared on supply warehouses, cattle pens, and the large hotel beside the courthouse. He had not bought half the town. He had bought its dependents. We stayed away from the main street and reached the abandoned church without being seen. Elena Ruiz lived in a narrow house behind it. She opened the door before I knocked. She was small, gray-haired, and held a shotgun steadily against her shoulder. Her eyes moved from me to Mara, then to Ricky across Dagger. You brought Vale's wounded dog to my door. He stopped being Silas's dog, Mara said. That's why he's wounded. Elena studied her for a moment. Then she lowered the shotgun. Bring him inside. We placed Ricky on a bed in the back room. Elena cut away his shirt and cleaned the wound without wasting words. When she finished, she looked at me. You are Coy Mercer. I had not heard my full name spoken in 3 years. How do you know me? I knew your wife. Mara became still beside the window. Is June alive? I asked. Elena's face revealed nothing. You came home too late. That is not an answer. It is the only safe answer in this town. I stepped toward her. I buried her. No, you buried a closed coffin. I saw her before they closed it. You saw a woman sick with fever in a dark room. I touched her face. And you believed the doctor when he told you she died that night. The floor seemed to shift beneath me. Who was in the coffin? Elena looked toward the door, as though even the walls belonged to Silas. A woman from the mining camp? No family, no one to ask questions. Mara covered her mouth. Why? I asked. Because June discovered what Silas was doing. Elena's voice remained calm, but her hands tightened. He was buying land through forged signatures. When owners refused, accidents happened. Fires, collapsed wells, missing cattle. June found documents while you were away selling the herd. She was sick. She was being poisoned. The anger inside me finally moved. I gripped the edge of the table until the wood cracked beneath my fingers. Elena continued. Small doses. Enough to weaken her. Enough to confuse her. The doctor worked for Silas. Why keep her alive? Because the original deed to your ranch requires signatures from both owners before mineral rights can be transferred permanently. Silas forged mine, but June refused to sign. Mara looked toward the ranch through the window. So he has kept her there for 3 years? Not exactly. Elena's eyes returned to me. June believes you abandoned her. I said nothing. Silas told her you sold the ranch and left before she recovered. He showed her forged letters. He made her believe you chose the money and disappeared. I would never. I know. Does she? Elena did not answer. That was answer enough. Night came slowly over Loma Verde. We left Ricky in Elena's care. Mara and I crossed the fields behind the church and approached the ranch through an old irrigation channel. Every step brought back something I thought I had forgotten. The cottonwood, where June hung lanterns during summer dinners. The fence I rebuilt after our first winter. The hill where she said we should one day build a room for children. Mara walked beside me in silence. Near the barn, she stopped. If June is alive... I looked at her. She struggled to finish. If she wants you back, I won't stand between you. The words hurt more than I expected. Mara, you loved her. I still don't know what I'm walking into. But you need to. I stepped closer. What happened between us was not a mistake. I know. Whatever's inside that house does not change what you did for me. Her eyes shone in the darkness. It might change what comes next. A light appeared behind the upstairs window. We both looked toward it. A shadow crossed the curtain. Mara placed the photograph in my hand. Go. And you? I'll find Devin. No. She gave me the smallest trace of a smile. You gave me a choice. Before I could stop her, she disappeared toward the barn. I crossed the yard alone. The red door stood directly ahead of me. For 3 years, I had imagined returning to this house. In some versions, it was empty. In others, Silas waited behind the door. Never once had I imagined that June might open it. I climbed the porch steps. My hand hovered above the wood. Then the door opened. A woman stood beneath the hallway light. She was thinner than I remembered. Her hair was longer. The silver necklace rested against her chest. For a moment, neither of us moved. Her eyes searched my face as though looking through years of fog. June. Her lips parted. I saw recognition. Then pain. Then something I could not understand. You shouldn't have come here, she whispered. A floorboard creaked behind her. Silas Vale stepped into the hallway, holding a revolver. His hair had turned gray, but his smile had not changed. Welcome home, Coy. From the direction of the barn, a woman screamed. Mara. I reached for my gun. Silas raised his revolver, and June stepped between us. Not to protect me, to protect him.